friends, it's Abby from My Practically Imperfect Life. Welcome back to another video in my Guest Hollow curriculum series where I introduce different programs from Guest Hollow that we have used and loved in our homeschool and share all of the great details about them with you. Now, for this video, I want you to take a moment and think back, like way back. Well, for me, it's very way back to your high school history classes. What were they like for you?
I actually said that Backstreet Boys were better than NSYNC. I mean, come on, whatever. Everybody knows NSYNC is going to be together forever. I mean, why would they ever break up? It's totally JT for life. Yes, Mrs. Smith, I am totally taking notes. Yeah, 80 Years War. Lasted 80 years, God.
So I'm sure many of us had a similar experience in our high school history courses, right? We were stuck memorizing names, date, locations, names of battles, who won this, who won that. We'd take a test and then we'd completely forget everything that we learned. And I don't think many of us got a chance to really understand how rich history could be and how important it is for us to know it. But in the homeschool setting, we have the opportunity to do it different. And Whirlwind World History is a program that is designed to help make history immersive for your student, help make it meaningful, help them connect the dots between what was happening in different parts of the world. And it's done in a way that only Guest Hollow can do. So Guest Hollow programs are famous for bringing together lots of different types of resources so you can really customize how you want to study a subject with your student. And Whirlwind World History is no different. This is a course that's going to teach your student not only the names of important places and people and what happened in those places, but it's also going to help them be able to see how things that were happening in Egypt impacted what was happening in the Middle East and how that all correlated with what was going on in the Far East and in the development of Europe. They're going to be able to kind of see how these things all overlapped and impacted one another and really changed the way civilization developed over the centuries. Guest Hollow courses are usually set up fairly similar to one another, so you're going to get a couple of components when you purchase the program. First of all, you're going to get the schedule, the meat and potatoes of the course, and I'm going to go into more detail about what the schedule looks like and what's included here in a minute. But with Whirlwind World History, you also get access to the free online textbook. Now, this is not your standard textbook where it's just a bunch of words on a page, real boring to read. Rather, the online textbook has a lot of interactive components. There will be embedded videos that go along with what your student is reading. There will be graphics and map work. And the reading is just really great to go through. Lots of great information, and it's written in a really great conversational tone that your student will enjoy reading. Additionally, you get a couple of things that you can download. One of them is the student workbook. Now, we chose to print off our workbook at home with my EcoTank printer, and I spiral bound it here at home, and my son works through it as he goes through the Guest Hollow course. Each day, the workbook kind of correlates with what they're reading in the online textbook. There will be different questions that they can answer. You can see that they've put in lots of fantastic graphics that are created by Jennifer Guest. And then there is map work, because map work is an important part of history, right? Understanding where things were happening and how different places and the names of places and the shapes of countries and things like that changed over time. So all of that is included in the student workbook. Now, here's the part where I feel a little bit like a cheesy TV infomercial, because I'm going to say, but wait, there's more. You also get a downloadable timeline. So the timeline can be printed off and put into a binder, or you could print it off and display it all throughout your classroom. And then each week there are different images that your student can cut out and put onto that timeline. It's a great visual way to, again, kind of see what was happening in different parts of the world along the same time periods. Now, here's a pro tip. I printed mine out on sticker paper, so my son just has to peel the images off and stick them right onto his timeline, and that has made it so much easier for him to do that part of the program each and every week. Now, let's go back to the schedule, because like I said, that is the meat and potato of the program. So the schedule provides you with a lot of information about different free resources that Guest Hollow offers. There are a bunch of Facebook groups for their different curriculum programs, including one for Whirlwind World History, where you can share your questions and your experiences with other homeschooling moms and dads. I have really enjoyed being a part of the Facebook groups and seeing the things that people enjoy sharing, projects their kids have done, or when they've found great deals on supplies for the curriculum program. Additionally, they have links to blogs on their page where they talk about ways that you can get books and materials at a significant discount or free in many cases. It's a really helpful way to help keep that homeschool budget in check. Now, they also will break down and show you a little bit about how to read the schedule, because it can seem a little daunting the first time you see it, but everything is organized by week. So you have weeks 1 through 36, and then it is color coded included within those weekly schedules. So you can see here that it tells us that anything that's colored yellow, orange, blue, or green are considered to be kind of like core parts of the curriculum. And then you have sections that are the extra items as well. Following that introduction, you get the book list. Now, the book list is one of my favorite things to go through because I'm always amazed at the different types of books, both nonfiction and fiction, reference books, all different kinds of things that they have pulled together for us to use throughout the year. Now, when you look at the book list, you might think that is a ton of books. How in the world is my student going to read all of those? Well, it's really your opportunity to kind of pick and choose what you would like to do. If you are like me and you enjoy just overly expanding your home library, you could certainly buy all of the books, but they have ranked them for you to make it easier. So things that are ranked number 1 are things that they think are the most important for the program and ones that you probably shouldn't skip out on. Things that are ranked number 2 are highly recommended, and then 3s and 4s are typically more of your reference books that you can use. And there's even more helpful information in the schedule for you. You're going to find information on the supplies you're going to need week by week if you choose to do things like the recipes or the art projects or any of the hands-on activities that they've cultivated for you. There also will be information on finding different videos that are suggested. Now, there's a lot of different YouTube videos that are recommended week to week, but there's also full-length movies and documentaries, and it will have links right there for you. Now, one thing I really love about the schedule is that there are a ton of embedded links right there in it. So if you hover over the title of a book or the title of a movie or show, it's going to have the live link for you to click to take you right to where you can get that book or rent that movie or links to the activities themselves. So it's very easy for you to get from the schedule to where you need to be online for that resource. Going into the schedule itself, each week is pretty much set up similarly, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick a random week on here. Let's say week number 14. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Vikings in week 14, which I think will be a lot of fun for us to do. So you'll see here at the top, we have that yellow section. Remember, that's the really important part of the curriculum, and it is going to list out which chapters of the online textbook we are in. So you can see the first part of the week, we're finishing up the previous week's chapter, and then on day 4, we're starting a new one. And then underneath it, it breaks down the different sections of the reading for you to do. So sometimes they are listed on one day, and then you'll do a second section of reading the next day. Sometimes you'll see blank days in between, and that just means that reading assignment might be a little longer, and you can spread it out over a couple of days. Underneath that come the different books, and they're usually separated by nonfiction and fiction books. And I do highly recommend that you consider bringing in some of the historical fiction that they've suggested. For example, when we were on the week studying ancient Egypt, my son read a book on Nefertiti, and that was a really interesting book. In fact, I read it before he did, and I thought it was just a great way to really see kind of Egyptian life at that time, kind of in action, getting a feel for the politics that were going on in the kingdom of Egypt at that point. So it was a really interesting way to get a feel for how things were going on at that time. So don't miss out on those great historical fiction books. They are a lot of fun. But anyways, you can look and pick and choose which of the nonfiction and fiction books you would like your student to do. And again, they're ranked based on whether they're a number 1, super important, or a number 4, just something that's more of a reference. And then they will give either a daily reading assignment by chapter or section or page number for your student. As we go down from there, there's information on what you might find in the workbook. Now, the workbook pages do typically go along with what you're reading in the online schedule. So if you read a section, that will be labeled in the workbook for that week. All of those questions will go with that particular section of the reading. But it's also going to let you know what type of map work you're going to find in the workbook as well. And the map work, like I mentioned earlier, is just a great way for your student to get a reference point in their head of where things are going on at that time in history. Going down further, we see that there are even more activities that you can choose from. If you have a student who's really into art, there are usually several different art projects, or I really like these paper modeling projects. You can print them out. Your student can make little paper 3D models. It's a great way to create some neat decorations for your homeschool. Or if you have a student who just really likes to do things with their hands, it's a wonderful activity for them to do. If your student enjoys cooking, there are recipes that go along with that time period. For example, for week 14, there's an option to make a crockpot Viking stew, and that looks pretty good. So I think we might have to make sure that we do that one. Sometimes you will see PDF downloads, and these will take you to free worksheets. So if you feel like your student needs more kind of traditional school activities to do or something that you'd like to assign a grade to, you can look at some of these different PDFs and print them off. They're just standard worksheets on particular topics. And I have kind of picked and chosen different ones on different weeks. We don't typically do all of them on any given week, but usually I will find one for us to do on a day that's a little bit lighter. And I'm going to keep going down to all of these extras, and we've got links to some fabulous YouTube videos. So you can have your student watch all of the YouTube videos. You could have them choose just a few here and there. I like to go ahead and click on them when I'm doing my lesson planning and kind of decide which ones I think I'm going to want them to do during the week. We particularly are big fans anytime a crash course video is recommended, and we've really enjoyed these ones called Real Faces, where they take scans of statues and things like that from different time periods, and they recreate what they might have looked like in real life and given some historical background on those individuals. Those have been really fun ones. There's also a list of more long videos or full-length documentaries, full-length movies. Again, this is not something that we do every week. We might do a family movie night where we choose a movie or a documentary from that for us all to watch together, or if I feel like it's one that's just particularly impactful. You can see here on this week, there's information on some what they call the dirtiest jobs in that time period. My son has found these types of videos really funny and fascinating to watch, so we'll definitely make sure we include that for him. There's also other stuff that's included, of course. There's information on reference books. So these books here, you see History of the World Map by Map, History in 1,000 Objects, the history book. These are some great general reference books that you can have on hand for your student. I don't assign specific reading in that. I ask my son to make sure that, he takes a moment during the week and kind of glances at them. That's really kind of the beauty of a reference book. It's not sitting there and doing a whole bunch of solid reading, but rather glancing at a bunch of pictures, reading the captions, just getting some more information on that time period. So we typically will just tab the pages that are listed for that week, and then he will glance at them as he gets time to during the week. So some of our favorite things about using the Whirlwind World History program is that the books really are amazing. They've done a fantastic job of choosing some wonderful books for us to use. Some of the books that we use on a weekly basis are Elements of the Home. This tells the history of how certain things came to be, everything from ice buckets to brooms to bathtubs to indoor toilets. And it's just been a really interesting way to find out more about common everyday items. We also really like the Mode and Costume, talking about the history of the things that people are wearing, describing the clothing in more detail. And then I pulled some of the books that are actually from week 14, since that's the one that I showed you on the schedule. So there is a historical fiction book that is read over a couple of weeks, and that is The Last Kingdom. And this, like many of the other novels that are listed throughout the curriculum, actually have lots of free resources available with discussion questions and reading guides. And get this, that is also included back in the beginning of the schedule. So if you feel like your student's doing a lot of reading, and some of this should count for maybe their literature program, you can actually get reading guides and discussion guides, print them off, and have your student do that along with the reading. So they are getting some history credit and they're getting their literature credit at the same time. And then here, of course, is the Viking Handbook. This is for week 14, How to Eat, Dress, and Fight Like a Warrior. So I feel like this is just gonna be a fun one for him to do. I have a feeling that he's gonna enjoy week 14. He's always been interested in Viking culture. So it's gonna be just perfect for him. But there have been so many great books that we have used. In fact, here I'll show you just a quick scan of the ones that we have on our bookshelf. Again, I love to just kind of buy tons of books and have them on hand so it's easier for me to pick and choose which ones we're going to use. And you might go, that seems like that would get really expensive, but there are lots of ways to save money on books. First of all, be sure to join the Facebook groups, the Guest Hollow Facebook groups, because near the end of the school year, a lot of us are actually selling the books that we used that school year at a discounted price. So it's a great way to get a lot of the books all at once for a good price. I also like to look for deals on websites like Half Price Books, Bargain Books, even on Amazon. I always look to see if there are used versions of those books available, and I have gotten some really fabulous deals on books that are still in great shape just there on Amazon. So you can definitely save money that way. There's also a lot of books that are available in a Kindle format for a really low price, or you can get them from your local library. So be sure to check out all of those different ways to get some of these books, because many of the books are used only for a couple of weeks, so you could easily check them out from the library and then return them when you're done. Whereas some of the books, like the reference books, you might use periodically throughout the year, so that one might be more worth your while to purchase and keep on hand. Another thing my son has really enjoyed about this program are the different hands-on activities. Now, he's not really into art, but he does like doing the cooking projects, trying out the new recipes. He likes building the models. There have been some assignments which have allowed him to build examples of things on Minecraft. So going back to the week we studied ancient Egypt, we did the ancient Egypt add-on to his Minecraft game that he already had, and he had to build several structures from ancient Egypt as detailed as he could, and then he had to basically describe them to me. He had to give me details about why he built them that way, what different things meant, and be accurate in that description. So he was learning about ancient Egypt, but he was also having a lot of fun creating this in the Minecraft game. So the beauty of homeschooling is that history classes don't have to look like this. We can make history something that is really interesting and immersive for our students, providing them with lots of different ways to learn. Whether your student enjoys learning by reading, watching videos, or hands-on activities, you're really going to have all of these resources at your fingertips with Whirlwind World History. Your students not just going to learn names and dates and places, but rather they're going to learn about everything that was going on surrounding a historical event. What was happening in religion, in politics, in the culture that impacted those different things. What was happening in different parts of the world at the same time period, and how did those things influence one another and change the course of history overall? So if you're on the hunt for a history curriculum for your high schoolers, I highly recommend checking out Guest Hollow's Whirlwind World History. I will, of course, link it down below in the description box for you, along with the Facebook group if you would like to get on and ask any questions of current homeschooling moms and dads who have been using and loving the program. I also will link my Guest Hollow playlist, where I have introduction videos to lots of different programs from them that we have been using and loving over the years. And I have lesson planning videos on there for you as well, showing you how to take the materials and the schedule and actually put it into practice on a weekly basis. As always, guys, I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up before you go, and happy homeschooling. Okay, so the saddest part about trying to throw in a little bit of comedy about my school days in the 90s is the fact that things that I actually owned and wore back then are available in the store today, including these little butterfly clips, which I totally wore in middle school, and the Care Bear t-shirt, and the glitter makeup. These vintage items are now making their way back into the stores.